When a desperate single father's trembling fingers sent a plea for baby formula money to the wrong number at 2:47 in the morning, he had no idea the stranger on the other end was a millionaire CEO who would change his life forever. One accidental text, two broken people, and a baby who would become the bridge between two worlds that were never supposed to meet. This is the story of how a $40 mistake became a $1 million blessing. Before we continue, please tell us, where in the world are you tuning in from? We love seeing how far our stories travel. The blue light from the phone screen cut through the darkness like a knife. Lincoln Drew's hands were shaking so badly he could barely hold the device steady. 2:47 a.m. The numbers on his cracked screen mocked him. In the next room, 8-month-old Talia had finally stopped crying. 3 hours. 3 endless hours of screaming that had echoed through the paper-thin walls of their cramped Chicago apartment. The neighbors had banged on the wall twice. Lincoln had just stood there in the kitchen, bouncing his daughter, whispering apologies to both her and the angry strangers on the other side of the plaster. The formula can on the counter sat nearly empty. Maybe 2 feedings left if he was careful, if he watered it down just a little more than the instructions said. Not enough to hurt her, just enough to stretch it. His bank account glowed on the screen, $47.23. Rent was due in 4 days. 4 days to come up with $850 or they'd be out on the street. Again. Lincoln scrolled through his contacts, his vision blurring. Pride was a luxury he couldn't afford anymore, not when his baby was hungry. He found his cousin Marcus's number and started typing fast before he could talk himself out of it.
Hey, I know it's late, and I'm sorry to ask again. Talia's almost out of formula, and I don't get my unemployment check until Tuesday. Could you spot me $40? I'll pay you back as soon as I can. I promise this is the last time. He hit send before he noticed his trembling thumb had selected the wrong contact. Not Marcus. The number above it, saved simply as Vale Interview, from some job application he'd submitted weeks ago and never heard back from. Lincoln stared at the sent message. His stomach dropped. No. He fumbled with the phone, trying to unsend it, but the message sat there, delivered, mocking him with its timestamp. He'd just begged a potential employer for money at 2:47 in the morning, mentioning his daughter when he'd never disclosed being a single parent on the application because everyone told him it would hurt his chances. Lincoln dropped the phone on the counter and pressed his palms against his eyes. This was it, the final humiliation, the moment he'd look back on when things got even worse and think, that's when I should have known I was done. 3 miles away, on the 42nd floor of a glass tower overlooking Lake Michigan, Josephine Vale sat in her home office surrounded by quarterly reports and half-empty coffee cups. The CEO of Hayes Industries hadn't slept more than 4 hours a night in 6 years. Building a sustainable packaging company from nothing into a $200 million enterprise didn't leave much time for rest. At 34, she'd sacrificed everything for success: relationships, friendships, the possibility of a family. Her phone buzzed on the desk. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something made her look.
She read the message once, twice, then a third time. This wasn't a scam. Scammers didn't ask for $40. They didn't mention formula or unemployment checks or promises to pay you back. This was real desperation from a real person who'd sent it to the wrong number. Josephine looked at the name of the contact who'd sent it. Vale Interview. She pulled up her laptop and searched her company's recent application database. Lincoln Drew. Applied 3 weeks ago for a junior project manager position. Construction background. Strong references. They'd meant to call him for an interview, but the hiring manager had been swamped. She looked back at the message. Emma's almost out of formula. Without overthinking it, Josephine typed back, "Wrong number, but I can help. What's your payment app?" Lincoln was making a bottle with the last of the formula when his phone buzzed. He nearly dropped it when he saw the response. His fingers were numb as he typed back, "I'm so sorry, I meant to text my cousin. Please forget this happened. The response came within seconds. Don't apologize. Everyone needs help sometimes. Baby formula is a necessity, not a luxury. What's your payment app? Lincoln stood frozen in his tiny kitchen, the formula bottle in one hand, his phone in the other. This couldn't be real. People didn't do this. Strangers didn't help. Not in the real world, not at 2:47 in the morning. But he gave her his payment app information because what choice did he have? Talia needed to eat. Pride didn't keep babies fed. 5 minutes later, his phone dinged with a notification. Josephine Vale sent you $200.
Lincoln's knees buckled. He grabbed the counter to steady himself, the formula bottle clattering into the sink. $200. Not 40. 200. He slid down to the floor right there in the kitchen, his back against the cabinet, and cried. Silent, shaking sobs that came from somewhere deep and broken inside him. The kind of crying he never let himself do when Talia was awake, because he had to be strong for her. He had to be everything for her. But right now, at 2:54 in the morning, sitting on the cold linoleum floor of his barely-there apartment, Lincoln let himself break down. Because a complete stranger had just saved him. He didn't sleep that night. After he'd pulled himself together, he'd sent a message back. I don't know what to say. Thank you doesn't feel like enough. You just saved my daughter's life. Josephine had responded, You're welcome. Take care of Tila. Lincoln had wanted to correct her. His daughter's name was Talia, not Tila. But the words wouldn't come. Let her think whatever she wanted. She'd already done more than anyone had a right to ask. The next day, he took the bus to the store and bought formula, real formula, name brand, enough for 2 weeks. He bought diapers, too, and a small stuffed elephant that Talia had been reaching for every time they passed it in the store for the last month. When he got home, Miss Anna from next door was sitting on the hallway floor outside his apartment, her back against his door. She was 67, with silver hair always pulled back in a bun, and eyes that had seen too much, but still managed to be kind.
You weren't answering, she said, pulling herself up with the wall. I heard the baby crying last night. Long time. I know. I'm sorry. She's teething, and... I'm not complaining, Lincoln. Mrs. Anna's voice was soft. I came to tell you my daughter in Milwaukee is doing better. The pneumonia finally broke. I can come back to watching Talia next week if you still need me. Lincoln felt his throat tighten. Mrs. Anna had been watching Talia for $400 a month, less than half what any daycare would charge. She'd left 3 weeks ago when her daughter got sick, right before Lincoln lost his construction job. Mrs. Anna, He couldn't finish. The words stuck somewhere between his heart and his mouth. She patted his arm. Next week, you focus on finding work. That baby needs her daddy to keep fighting. 2 days later, Lincoln was feeding Talia in the afternoon when his phone buzzed. Unknown number. But he knew it was her, Josephine Vale. How's Tila? Lincoln stared at the message. He should correct her about the name, he should. But instead, he wrote, She's doing better. Thank you again. I start a warehouse job Monday, so I can begin paying you back in 2 weeks. The response came 5 minutes later. I'm curious. You mentioned construction work in your application to Hayes Industries. What happened? Lincoln's heart stopped. Application. Hayes Industries. Vale interview. You're from the company I applied to. I'm the CEO, Josephine Vale. And yes, I know you applied. I also know we haven't called you for an interview yet, which is my team's oversight. We have an opening now. The interview would be tomorrow at 10 a.m. if you can make it.
Lincoln read the message 3 times, then 3 more. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. I don't have anyone to watch my daughter. My neighbor who usually helps is out of town for a few more days. Her name is Talia, by the way, not Tila. Sorry for the confusion. She responded, Wow, Talia. Pretty name. And bring her.
We have a workplace nursery for employees. She can stay there during your interview. It's on the second floor, completely free for staff. 10 a.m. tomorrow. I'll let the front desk know you're coming. Lincoln arrived at Hayes Industries at 9:45 a.m. wearing the only suit he owned. He'd bought it at Goodwill 3 years ago for Jessica's father's funeral. Jessica. He hadn't let himself think about her in months. What she'd think if she knew he was standing in the lobby of a glass tower, holding their 8-month-old daughter, about to interview for a job that might actually save them. But Jessica had left. That was the truth he woke up with every morning. She'd looked at him when Talia was 2 months old and said, "I can't do this. I thought I could, but I can't." Then she'd signed papers, packed a bag, and moved to Arizona. No fight, no custody battle, just gone. Lincoln shook the memory away and approached the front desk. "Lincoln Drew, I have an interview at 10. Ms. Vale said, "Yes, Mr. Drew. The nursery is on the second floor. Take those elevators. Someone will meet you there."
The nursery was painted in soft yellows and blues, with natural light pouring through floor-to-ceiling windows. Children of various ages played in different sections: infants, toddlers, preschoolers. It looked nothing like the dark, cramped daycare Lincoln had visited before losing his job, the one with the mystery stains on the floor and workers who looked dead behind the eyes. "You must be Talia." A woman in her 40s with warm brown eyes knelt down to Talia's level. "I'm Ms. Rodriguez, the nursery director. Ms. Vale told us you'd be visiting today. She'll need a bottle around 11, and she's teething, so she might be fussy. Mr. Drew." Ms. Rodriguez smiled. "We've got this. Go show them what you're made of upstairs. Talia will be just fine." The interview was professional, cold even. Human resources. 3 people asking questions about his experience, his education, his gaps in employment. Lincoln answered honestly. The construction site shut down, the bankruptcy, being a single father, needing something stable. They didn't smile much, didn't give anything away. Lincoln left after 45 minutes feeling like he'd failed, like he'd wasted everyone's time, like he should just collect Talia and go home. But 3 days later, HR called. "Mr. Drew, we'd like to offer you the position of Junior Project Manager with Hayes Industries. Starting salary is $58,000 annually with full benefits, including use of our on-site childcare facility at no cost to you. Can you start Monday?" Lincoln sat down hard on his apartment floor. Yes, I can start Monday." His first day was overwhelming. The office was on the 5th floor, all glass and clean lines and people who looked like they belonged in a world Lincoln had only ever seen in movies. He dropped Talia at the nursery that morning, his heart physically aching as he watched her being carried away by Ms. Rodriguez. "She'll be fine," Ms. Rodriguez had promised. "We'll call if there's any problem. Focus on your work." But during lunch, Lincoln couldn't help himself. He took the elevator down to the second floor and peered through the nursery window. Talia was on a playmat, grabbing at hanging toys, perfectly content. "She's a happy baby." Lincoln spun around. Josephine Vale stood 3 feet away. This was the first time he'd seen her in person. She was taller than he'd imagined, with her hair pulled back in a neat ponytail, and eyes that seemed to see right through him. "Miss Vale, I didn't know you. I didn't expect." "I like to walk the building," she said simply. "Check on things. Make sure everything's running smoothly." She glanced through the window at Talia. "She looks healthy. I'm glad." "Because of you," Lincoln's voice cracked. "If you hadn't, that night, we wouldn't be here." Josephine's expression didn't change. Professional, distant. "I would have figured something out. People always do. But I'm glad I could help. Welcome to Hayes Industries, Mr. Drew. If you need anything, my door is open." She walked away before he could respond, her heels clicking against the polished floor. Lincoln stood there, watching her disappear around a corner, and realized he didn't even know if she had kids of her own, if she understood what it meant to watch your child go hungry, if she'd ever been desperate enough to beg strangers for help,
or if she was just someone with money who could afford to be kind. The weeks blurred together. Lincoln proved himself quickly at Hayes Industries. His construction background gave him practical insights that the other project managers lacked. He streamlined processes, caught errors in supply chain logistics, brought fresh perspectives to sustainable packaging designs. Talia thrived in the nursery. She started crawling at 10 months, much to Ms. Rodriguez's delight. The other parents whose kids were in the facility became Lincoln's first real friends in years. Marcus, his cousin, visited the apartment one evening and barely recognized the place. "Man, you landed on your feet," Marcus said, looking around the slightly bigger two-bedroom Lincoln had moved into. Nothing fancy, but clean, safe, with actual furniture. "I got lucky," Lincoln said, watching Talia attempt to pull herself up on the coffee table. "Luck? You earned this." But Lincoln knew better. Luck was his thumb slipping at 2:47 in the morning. Luck was a CEO who responded instead of blocking his number. Luck was Josephine Vale. He saw her sometimes, in the building. Never for long. She'd pass him in the hallway, nod professionally, ask how Talia was doing. Always formal, always distant. Lincoln told himself that was appropriate. She was the CEO. He was an employee. The money she'd sent him was charity, nothing more. The job was business, and the fact that he found himself looking for her whenever he walked through the building, hoping to catch a glimpse of her through the glass conference room walls, was something he needed to get over. When Talia turned 1, Lincoln planned a small party at his apartment. Nothing elaborate, some decorations from the dollar store, a cake from the grocery bakery, a few friends from work. He mentioned it casually with Miss Rodriguez when dropping Talia off that morning. "Her birthday's this Saturday. Can't believe she's already 1. "Have you thought about the party venue?" Miss Rodriguez asked. "The nursery has a wonderful playroom that parents can rent for—" "I can't afford that right now," Lincoln admitted. "The apartment will work fine." Miss Rodriguez smiled in a way that made Lincoln suspicious. "Let me make a call." That afternoon, Lincoln received an email from Josephine Vale's assistant. "Miss Vale has authorized use of her account at Tiny Tots Party Supply for Talia's first birthday. Please contact them directly to arrange a party package. This is Miss Vale's gift to Talia. Congratulations on her first year." Lincoln stared at the email for 20 minutes. Then he called the number listed. "Oh yes, Mr. Drew," the woman at Tiny Tots said cheerfully. "Miss Vale called us this morning. We have our premier first birthday package reserved for you. Decorations, entertainment, cake, party favors, the works. What theme would you like?" How much does this cost?" "It's already handled, sir. Miss Vale has a corporate account with us. All you need to do is choose a theme and pick a time for delivery." Saturday arrived. Mrs. Anna came over early to help set up. Marcus brought his girlfriend. 2 colleagues from Hayes Industries showed up with gifts. The apartment was crowded, but filled with laughter and warmth Lincoln hadn't felt in years. The decorations were beautiful. A rainbow theme with butterflies and clouds. The cake was a work of art. Talia sat in her high chair, wearing a little birthday crown, smashing frosting into her face with pure joy. Then there was a knock at the door. Lincoln opened it to find Josephine Vale standing in his hallway, holding a large wrapped box. "Miss Vale, you don't have to," he was stammering like an idiot. "You sent an email to the whole team about the party. I'm technically part of the team. May I come in?"
The room went quiet when she entered. A CEO in a regular apartment at a child's birthday party. But Josephine didn't seem to notice her care. She set the gift down, then knelt on the floor next to Talia's high chair. "Happy birthday, sweet girl," she said softly, and something in her voice cracked the professional armor she always wore. Talia, covered in frosting, reached out and grabbed Josephine's hand. Then she smiled, that big, gummy 1-year-old smile, and said, "Jojo!" The room laughed. Josephine's eyes went wide, then soft. "Jojo," she repeated. "I'll take it."
For the next hour, Lincoln watched as the CEO of a multi-million-dollar company sat cross-legged on his apartment floor helping his one-year-old daughter demolish a birthday cake. Josephine's designer blazer got frosting on it. Her neat ponytail came loose. And she laughed, really laughed. Lincoln couldn't look away. After that day, something shifted. Josephine started visiting the nursery more often. Not obviously, not in a way that would draw attention, but Lincoln would come down during lunch and see her through the window, reading picture books to Talia, who would climb into her lap like they'd known each other forever. "Miss Vale really seems to love kids," Miss Rodriguez mentioned. "Does she have any of her own?" Lincoln asked, trying to sound casual. Miss Rodriguez shook her head. "No, I've worked here 7 years, never heard her mention family. I think she's lonely, if I'm being honest. All that success, but nobody to share it with." Lincoln thought about that. Thought about Josephine in that glass tower at 2:47 in the morning reading his desperate text. Thought about why she'd responded when anyone else would have blocked the number. Maybe they weren't so different after all. Just two people trying to survive their own kinds of loneliness. When Talia was 13 months old, she started walking. Lincoln was at work when Miss Rodriguez called him down to the nursery. "You have to see this." Talia stood in the middle of the play area, wobbling on unsteady legs, her arms out for balance. Then she took 3 steps before falling onto her padded bottom, laughing. Lincoln's eyes burned. These were the moments Jessica was missing. These perfect, beautiful moments. "That's my girl," he whispered. "She did it for Ms. Vale first," Ms. Rodriguez said, "about an hour ago. Ms. Vale was here during her lunch break. Talia walked right to her. Ms. Vale actually cried." Lincoln looked up. "She cried?" "Happy tears. She made me promise not to tell anyone, but—" Ms. Rodriguez smiled. "I think you should know." The next day, Lincoln saw Josephine in the 5th-floor break room. She was making coffee, alone, staring off the window at the Chicago skyline. "I heard Talia walked for you yesterday," he said, stepping inside. Josephine turned, and for a second, her professional mask slipped. "She did. I hope you don't mind that I was there for that. I know those moments are supposed to be for parents." "I don't mind." Lincoln moved closer. "Ms. Rodriguez told me you cried." Her cheeks flushed. "She wasn't supposed to tell anyone that." "Why did you cry?" The question hung between them. Josephine looked down at her coffee cup, and when she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. "Because I've spent my whole life building things. Buildings, companies, success, and I realized, watching your daughter take her first steps, that none of it matters. None of it means anything if you don't have someone to share it with, someone to walk toward you, someone who calls you JoJo and doesn't care about quarterly earnings or board meetings." She looked up, her eyes glassy. "I'm 34 years old, Lincoln. I have everything I thought I wanted, and I'm alone." Lincoln's heart cracked open. "You're not alone." "Aren't I?" He stepped closer, closing the distance between them. "You saved my life. You gave me a job. You show up for my daughter's milestones. You sit on my apartment floor and eat birthday cake. That's not alone, Josephine. That's family." She stared at him, and something shifted in her expression. Something vulnerable and real and terrified. "I need to transfer you to another supervisor," she said suddenly. "What? Why?" "Because I can't be your direct supervisor if I'm going to ask you to dinner." She set her coffee cup down, her hands shaking slightly. "Same position, same salary, same childcare benefits. But Harold will be your supervisor instead of me. And then maybe we can figure out if this," she gestured between them, "is something more than gratitude." Lincoln couldn't breathe. "Are you asking me out?" "I'm trying to. Very poorly, apparently." He laughed. Actually laughed. "I'd like that. Dinner. With you." "Can we bring Talia?" Josephine asked quickly. "I know that's not typical for a first date, but I'd really like her to be there. She'd be offended if she wasn't." Their first date was at a family-friendly restaurant where Talia could come along. Josephine had insisted, and Lincoln wasn't about to argue. They sat in a booth, Talia in a high chair between them, throwing Cheerios on the floor and babbling happy nonsense. "I have never done this before," Josephine admitted, picking up a Cheerio and handing it back to Talia. Been on a date? Been on a date with someone who had a child. Been on a date at a place with a kids menu. Been on a date where I actually care what happens next. Lincoln reached across the table and took her hand. Her fingers were cold, nervous. I've never dated since becoming a dad. I don't know what I'm doing either. Then we'll figure it out together. Talia chose that moment to throw a handful of Cheerios directly at Josephine's face. They both froze. Then Talia laughed, that pure, contagious baby laugh, and they couldn't help but laugh too. I think that's her approval.
Over the next few months, Josephine became a constant in their lives. She'd come to the apartment in the evenings, bringing dinner or helping with bath time. She learned all of Talia's favorite songs. She baby-proofed her penthouse, something Lincoln had never expected to see. I want Talia to be safe here, Josephine explained, showing him the outlet covers and cabinet locks she'd installed. I want this to feel like home for both of you. Both of us? Josephine nodded. I know it's fast. I know we've only been dating for a few months. But Lincoln, I'm not interested in wasting time. I'm 34 years old. I've spent my entire life building a company. I don't want to build a relationship the same way. Slowly, carefully, checking every box. I want to jump with you, with Talia, if you'll let me. Lincoln pulled her close. Jump away. By the time Talia was 18 months old, Josephine was a regular presence at bedtime. She'd read stories in different voices, making Talia giggle until she hiccuped. She'd installed a car seat in her Tesla. She learned to make bottles and change diapers and handle toddler meltdowns with the same competence she handled board meetings. How are you so good at this? Lincoln asked one night, watching her rock Talia to sleep. I'm not, she whispered. I'm terrified every second that I'm going to mess it up, that she won't love me like she loves you, that I'm just pretending to be something I'm not. You're not pretending. You're her JoJo. That's real. Josephine looked down at Talia's sleeping face. I love her, Lincoln, like she's mine. Is that okay? Is it okay that I love your daughter like she's my own? It's more than okay. It's everything.
One evening, when Talia was 2.5, Lincoln and Josephine were sitting on his couch reviewing blueprints for Josephine's latest sustainable housing project. Lincoln had been promoted to senior project manager and was leading the initiative. Talia was supposed to be asleep in her toddler bed, but they could hear her playing with her stuffed animals through the baby monitor. This design won't work, Lincoln said, pointing to a specification. The water reclamation system needs to be... Marry me, he said suddenly. Josephine's pen stopped mid-notation. What? Lincoln turned to face her fully. I know I don't have a ring yet. I know we're looking at building specifications, but marry me. Talia asked me yesterday why JoJo doesn't live with us. She said, it's because I haven't asked you properly yet. She said, ask now, Daddy. So I'm asking. Tears spilled down Josephine's cheeks. Lincoln. I know it's not romantic. I know I should have planned something better. But I've learned that the best things in my life have come from moments I didn't plan, from texts sent to the wrong number, from strangers who respond with kindness instead of blocking the message, from falling in love with someone I never saw coming. Josephine was crying openly now. Yes, of course, yes. From the bedroom doorway, a small voice said, "Jojo, stay forever now?" They both turned to see Talia in her pajamas, dragging her stuffed elephant, her curly hair a mess from tossing in bed. Josephine opened her arms, and Talia ran to her, climbing into her lap. "Yes, sweet girl, forever." Talia looked at Lincoln. "Daddy happy?" "So happy, baby. So happy." "Me too." Talia snuggled into Josephine's arms. "Love Jojo." "I love you too," she whispered, holding the little girl who'd become hers without biology, without paperwork, without anything but love. 6 months later, they stood on the rooftop garden of Hayes Industries. The fall air was crisp,
Lake Michigan sparkling in the distance. White chairs filled with guests who'd become family. Colleagues, Mrs. Anna crying in the front row, Marcus standing as best man. Talia, now 3 years old, was supposed to be the flower girl. She'd practiced all week, carefully dropping petals from a basket. But the moment the music started, she'd abandoned the flowers and attached herself to Josephine's hip, playing with the pearl necklace Josephine wore. "I don't think she's letting go," the wedding coordinator whispered nervously. "It's fine," Josephine said, adjusting Talia on her hip. "She can stay right here." So that's how Josephine Vale walked down the aisle to marry Lincoln Drew, in a white dress holding a bouquet in one hand and a 3-year-old in the other. Lincoln stood at the altar, his eyes filled with tears, watching his entire world walk toward him. The officiant smiled. "Who gives this woman to be married?" Talia raised her hand. "Me! I do!" The crowd laughed, and Lincoln laughed, and Josephine laughed, and for a moment, everything was perfect. The vows were simple. Lincoln promised to love her in the moments that were easy and the moments that were hard, to be her partner in building not just projects, but a life, to never take for granted the kindness of strangers who become family. Josephine promised to love him and Talia with everything she had, to show up for the small moments and the big ones, to remember that the most important things in life can't be measured in quarterly earnings or board meetings. To be a mother, not just in name, but in every way that mattered. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," Talia covered her eyes and giggled, "Gross." The reception was filled with dancing and laughter and a cake that Talia insisted on helping cut. Mrs. Anna cornered Lincoln during a slow song, pulling him away from the dance floor. "You remember when I found you in that hallway, when Talia was still so small, when you looked like you'd given up? I remember. I told you to keep fighting. That baby needed her daddy to keep fighting. You did, and I did." Mrs. Anna squeezed his hand. "You did more than fight, sweetheart. You opened yourself up to be saved. That takes more courage than people know." Lincoln hugged her, this woman who'd been his lifeline when he'd had nothing else. "Thank you for not giving up on me." "Never. You're my family now, all of you." Later, as the sun set over Chicago, Lincoln found Josephine standing alone near the edge of the rooftop garden. Talia had finally crashed from all the excitement and was sleeping on a bench, wrapped in someone's suit jacket. "Hey," he said softly, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "You okay?" Josephine said, "I keep thinking about that night, when you sent that text. I almost didn't respond, Lincoln. I saw it and thought, this isn't my problem. I almost just deleted it and went back to work. What made you respond?" "I don't know. Instinct? Fate? Or maybe I was just tired of being alone and pretending I wasn't. Maybe I needed saving as much as you did." Lincoln turned her around to face him. "We saved each other. We did. And we're going to spend the rest of our lives making sure she knows she's loved, that she's wanted, that she's the reason we found each other. She's going to have the best life, Josephine, because of you. Because of us."
Lincoln never did pay Josephine back that $200. Not because he couldn't, but because Josephine refused to accept it. "You've given me more than money could ever buy," she'd said. "You gave me a family. You gave me a reason to come home. You gave me a daughter who calls me Mama, and a love I didn't think I deserved. Keep your $200, Lincoln. You've already paid me back 1,000,000 times over." If this story touched your heart, please like this video and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Sometimes we all need reminding that kindness still exists, that strangers can become family, and that our worst moments might just be the beginning of our best ones. And to everyone out there who's struggling right now, who's one text away from giving up, who feels like nobody sees you or cares, don't give up. Your person is out there. Your miracle is coming. Sometimes it shows up at 2:47 in the morning in the form of a stranger who responds with kindness instead of indifference. Keep fighting. Keep believing. Keep your heart open to the possibility that everything can change with one unexpected message. Because
Love doesn't always arrive the way we expect it. Sometimes it comes disguised as a wrong number, a missed opportunity, a moment of desperation that transforms into a lifetime of joy. This is the story of Lincoln, Josephine, and Talia. But maybe, just maybe, it's your story too. We all have a wrong number moment waiting to become something beautiful. Thank you for watching Everbell's Stories. I'll see you in the next one.